Hello and welcome to Bat Flips and Nerds, the baseball podcast with a British twist. I am your host this evening, Ben Carter, and I am joined by the one and only Russell Eason, who I don't think has been on the pod since he got back from his WBC Adventures. Russell, have you recovered? Give us a down low on how that experience was and what life's like now you're back at.
Yeah, I think after, let's say, 2 weeks of pretending to be a journalist, the come down can be pretty high. The obvious pros are being back with my partner and in our house and not having to worry about those sorts of things. But it's an amazing 2 weeks. The time out in Houston is really interesting because you don't have many press out there for some of the games. Like the US games have a lot of press and the Mexico games have like a lot of press associated with them. But for the games when it was like Brazil versus Italy and GB versus Italy, like there wasn't much there. And so it was like I got the chance to meet and chat to a lot of major league players, a lot of minor league players who I think are going to really do something good in the future. And then it ends in Miami, and it wasn't a letdown compared to like last time around from an atmosphere perspective. Like the 3 games I saw in Miami last time around were electric, and the Venezuelan fans were just unbelievable. Like any time that I'm going to be at a baseball game now and someone's on 2 strikes, I'm going to be sat there going, Ponche, Ponche, Ponche. That is like ingrained in my brain now of like what a fan must do. It was utterly unbelievable.
Yeah, it looked insane obviously we were just watching at home on TV, but the atmosphere was unbelievable. And I think people pointed it out, almost a shame just seeing the stadium in Miami rocking like it hasn't rocked in maybe ever, certainly 10 plus years, but amazing to see how many baseball fans are in that market. And yeah, obviously the Latin American countries especially well represented, and awesome to see Venezuela put it out of the bag, but also a reminder that if the Marlins could just put a decent team on the field, they probably would have a pretty good atmosphere themselves if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's one of those difficult ones where you're always just like, yeah, you know what? There's a lot of passionate baseball fans out there, but probably like half of them are Yankees fans or.
True. The Marlins don't have quite the same pull, do they?
No, not quite.
But there we go. But no, we are obviously back to talk Major League Baseball now. Season is underway. I was saying before we started recording that it felt like it came pretty hot on the heels of WBC. Caught us all a bit by surprise. We obviously did our late predictions podcast last week, so apologies that one was a little bit later than planned. But now we're going to get into chatting through some of the early season action. We're still only, 15 or so games in, so hard to draw any major conclusions from what's been happening so far. But that doesn't mean that we aren't able to start firing off some takes. And one of my favourite parts of the baseball season, as being as long as it is being able to massively overreact to the first 10, 12 games of the season and decide which teams and players are good, which ones are cooked, and then be proved extremely wrong a matter of weeks or months later when, all the things that take months to stabilize, catch you out a little bit down the line. So we're going to do a little bit of that tonight. I think our plan is to each take it in turns a little bit to throw out a take, and this can be a super hot take, it can be more of a mild take, it can be about any team, player, moment, bless you, of the season so far. So Russ, maybe I'll throw it to you first. Are you coming to us with the heat straight off the bat, or where do you want to take this one for your first 2026 MLB season take?
Yeah, let's start relatively hot. I think that's the good way to go for. I think that the New York Yankees are going to have the best pitching starting ERA in franchise history this season.
Wow.
I think that they've obviously started off particularly well. Max Fried has looked back to his best. Cam Schittler is looking like everything that people wanted after like the brief appearance we saw us in. Will Warren has dominated as well at the start of the season. They don't even have Garrett Cole back yet, which isn't going to be particularly long. But like, yeah, I'm starting out bold, but I'm kind of thinking that kind of given what the way things are going, let's say, yeah, Yankees' best ERA ever.
Wow, I love it. I mean, even Ryan Weathers last night I know they lost 1-0, didn't they? But he was outstanding for 8 innings. It does feel like they've got serious depth to that rotation. We were, remarking last week how great Schittler looked, and Max Fried is just dominant week in, week out at this point. So I like that take. What is the number to beat? Do you know?
So if we go like all stats, their best ERA is 257 from 1904, which feels a little hard to go for. So I might kind of push myself to kind of like an ERA kind of like minus equivalent to kind of at least kind of like set it to kind of like the
Okay,
standard
so
of
yeah.
what is out there. In that case, that's still 74 from 1939. Probably the most actual recent one is back in 1981, where that was like 81 when they had a 2.9 ERA. So
Wow.
I'm basically saying that like they got to go sub 3 probably to as the starters for the season.
That's hard to do. Well, you think about all the great Yankees pitchers of seasons past as well, and I don't know how well the full rotation would have stacked up in those years, but certainly some of those dominant teams of the late 90s and early 2000s, it's, yeah, amazing to think that this year's might be even stronger. I like it. How are we going to do this? Are we going to rank each other's takes on a scale? Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, I think so. We can go for a 1 to 5, or if you want to go 1 to 10 of how hot do you think this is?
Okay. Sort of Nando's piri piri rating of heat. I like this. So it's a nerdy stat, which I like as well. But I'm going to give it, I think you're going to go hotter as we get going here. So I'm not going to go too hot too early, but I think that's a solid 7 out of 10. Yeah, that's a tough bar to clear. But having him as one of the best rotations in baseball, I think is certainly not going to be wrong. And I'm excited to see, yeah, once Cole comes back, how it might look when it's fully fledged. So 7 out of 10 as a starter.
I'll take that. I'll take that. What have you got for me then, Ben?
Okay, this one's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I'm going to go with it, and it's going to stick it in the same division. Let's just go ahead and call it. The Red Sox season is over. Thank you for coming out, Boston. But based on a lot of the things I was seeing on social media, articles from Boston media, that's how most of the fans seem to feel anyway. So I'm probably not breaking news to any of them. But there were a lot of head and hands and hand wringing from Boston fans after their start to the season. They were 2-8. I think they've now won a couple of games back to 4-8. But obviously still below 500. I guess the tongue-in-cheek part of this is like everyone gets off to bad runs during the season, and the fact that they had a bad 10-game run at the start of the season doesn't really make it any more statistically significant than if they did this in July. So it's a little bit silly to watch 10 games of baseball and decide that a team isn't good anymore. The not so tongue-in-cheek part, I guess, is that there are some potential red flags with this team. I think the rotation at the beginning of the year we thought was going to be super, super strong hasn't impressed quite as much so far. I think we know what we're going to get from Garrett Crochet. He's awesome. But Sonny Gray may be showing signs that he's not going to be quite as consistent as he has been in years past. Ranger Suarez struggled a little bit in a couple of his early starts. Ryan Baez looked, I think, pretty awful. I hope I'm not getting that wrong, but I feel like he's not had a great start to the year, possibly going to lose his rotation spot. So that's a little bit concerning. And on the hitting side, Stories looked dreadful. I know he's bounced back a little bit in the last few days, but that's a worry. There's a lot on the shoulders of Roman Anthony, who I think is awesome. But if you need him to be your best bat, that's a lot to put on the shoulders of a second-year guy. So I think there's signs that maybe things are going to be tougher than we initially thought they were going to be, given literally a week ago we predicted they were going to win this division. I realise I'm sounding slightly reactionary here. But that's the other part of it, is this is a really hard division. And actually, if you fall 4 or 5 games behind now, that becomes quite a hard mountain to climb when all these other teams you're playing are really, really good and can beat up on you on any given day. So do I really think their season's over? No, obviously not. Do I think Red Sox fans are freaking out and maybe have slight reason to freak out? I'm going to say yes, but that's no fun. So my hot take is season over. See you in 2027, Boston Red Sox fans.
It's an interesting one because, like you say, like it's 2 weeks, so it's like you can't really take anything from it because it's just like what every team will go through a spell like that. But you should be concerned. But we know that like concern in Boston is only heard via like shouting at like I'm trying to think, Dan Le Batard or whatever, or any of the talk show hosts that are out there to listen to the whatever is the 606 equivalent in Boston. Like that's all you're going to be getting right now because they effectively traded their way and then gave some contracts. They decided not to really buy anybody big in the free market, with the exception of like Ranger Suarez, and kind of go that way around and getting rid of Devers, bringing in Bregman, not locking Bregman down because of supposedly a no trade deal part clause that he wanted, and now having Caleb Durbin, D3 legend, Caleb Durbin now kind of like playing as your everyday shortstop, everyday third baseman, done things that if it doesn't go well, they're going to easily be lambasted for those decisions. And so right now they are getting lambasted. I think Boston's only hope, and this is one that we might get into a little bit later on, is that I don't think beyond the Yankees there might be any good teams in the AL this year.
Oh, really? You're not
And
believing?
so, like, they could sneak into the playoffs with, like, 82, 84 wins, because there's right now just kind of all the teams we thought were going to do okay have not done okay. And there's quite a few of the teams that have started okay are not the ones we would thought would do okay. And so it's like, what's going on here then?
Oh, I like it. That's like a little secret hot take you've thrown in there that 82 or 83 wins will be enough for a playoff spot in the vaunted American League. But yeah, you're right. Some of the teams that we thought were going to be good have been poor. It's not just the Red Sox who have struggled. The Tigers aren't off to a great start. Likewise, the Mariners. Interesting to see how that changes in the next few weeks. I think I read this was the worst start the Red Sox have had since 2011, and people might remember that season as the one where the Red Sox were terrible to start the year, unbelievable through the middle of the year, and then completely bottled their division lead in September, ending with that incredible last day of the season where the Rays stole it from them. So if anything like that can happen again, neutral fans will be happy. Red Sox fans maybe less so. But yeah, that's my take. I'll throw it back to you. What's your second? Oh, sorry, you need to give me a score first, don't you?
I need to give you a score. It's an interesting one, because I'm like, I don't think it's that hot. I think it's hot to say that they're actually like because you think they're just not going to make the playoffs like whatsoever, and so like their season is already done, which I think is like going from they're going to win the division to they're going to basically not make the playoffs in 2 weeks is quite a hot take. But I also think it's a very vocal take, which I think is then like it brings it down like a couple of notches. So I'm gonna sit this one at a 4 out of 10, because I think it's like it is a hot take, but it's a well-known hot take.
Yeah, it's more of an idiotic take from me, but you're judging the art, not the artist, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll throw it back to you.
Okay, I'll go do a player individual one now, looking at the list that I had before from this. I think Kazuma Okamoto is probably the third best Japanese hitter I've ever seen, basically. I think that like behind Ichiro, behind Shohei Ohtani, I think basically that like he is gonna come out and show that basically like he's hitting for power already, which we weren't 100% certain he was going to be able to do. We were expecting a good average in elite defense. I think he's come out showing like he's phenomenal, and I think come the end of this season, like people are going to be like, oh, like he is phenomenal, and people are going to be thinking about going like, okay, where does he sit amongst kind of like the Japanese players that have come across into Major League Baseball? And I think he's going to be one of these ones where people are just like, he's theoretically eligible for the Rookie of the Year award, and I think he might have to give some poor BBWA writers pulse of thought about whether they actually should classify him as a rookie or not.
It's always hard with those older Japanese players, isn't it? We've seen that a few times in recent years. That is a spicy take. I'll hold my hands up and say I've not had a chance to see him play myself yet. I've not got around to watching the Blue Jays, so I can't speak from having watched him hit. Obviously know that his reputation coming from MPB was as an elite hitter, one of the best they've had in their league for a long time, and the numbers look pretty good to start the year, as you say. The power seems to be there. I'm looking at a 39.2% strikeout rate, which is high.
Yeah,
that would be the cause for concern, right? And that is one of the first stats to stabilize is walk rate and strikeout rate. Again, we're probably still too early to look into anything like that, and I think we've seen players struggle to make that adjustment coming from MPB, right? So I think we should give him time to see what it's like facing Major League pitching, really, before we make a full decision on whether this guy's the third greatest Japanese hitter ever, or a bust. But I like that you're putting yourself out there, setting your stall out early. So this is spicy.
To me, it's personally spicy, given the fact that like Munetaka Murakami has basically been my favorite player for quite a long time from MPB, and he's come along and he's flirting with that Mendoza line, but also has like an 850 OPS, which is like he's doing everything that I thought he would do. But I'm just like, I just still don't know which way that's actually going to go.
Yeah, I was going
Think
to say he might not even be the third best Japanese hitter in the league this year. Never mind ever. Murakami giving him a run for his money for that sort of older Rookie of the Year award. But I'm going to give this an 8.5, maybe even a 9. I'm going to give myself room to give you a 10, but I think that's a 9. That's hot. But look, if Okamoto can keep it up, that would be huge for the Blue Jays. I feel like having an extra right-handed bat in the lineup that has pop and can help fill some of the voids of guys that like Bichette that left over the offseason would be massive. I hope you're right. Okay, my next one is actually going to be tangentially related to that. I haven't put down a way for us to measure this, if I'm going to be right or not, which is a great way to never be wrong. I think we are in store for a historically good rookie class this year. And part of that is the older rookies like Murakami and Okamoto who are coming over from Japan and hitting the ground running. Part of that is that there are a bunch of young players who have looked really, really good in the first 2 weeks of the season. Chase DeLauter, obviously from your team, has cooled off a little bit since being Barry Bonds for the first 4 days of the season, but still looks like being immediately one of Cleveland's best hitters. Owen Casey's been fantastic for the Marlins. Kevin McGonigal has slotted in as one of the Tigers' best hitters. JJ Weatherholt has been awesome for the Cardinals. And now, obviously, Connor Griffin, who was down in the minors for all of, 3 days, has come up, signed his long-term deal with the Pirates, and looks electric. Again, I went back to have a look at what were some of the best rookie classes ever? And basically, the answer is there have been really, really good ones recently. Let me see if I can pull up the article, but I think even in 2023 or 2024, the year when, what's his name, Jackson Merrill and Yamamoto went head-to-head for Rookie of the Year, that was like an unbelievable rookie year as far as production goes. So that's one that stands out. I think, let me see if I can find it here. I think there was another year recently. Yeah, so 2024, there's 138.3 rookie WAR, according to Fangraphs. And yeah, driven by those two guys. And the year before that, 2023, was also an unbelievable rookie WAR year. 134.8. So I guess those are the thresholds we're trying to clear here. And now I'm looking at those numbers high. So that I might have shot myself in the foot a little bit here. But before that, 2015, which I guess would have been, maybe is that the Chris Bryant year? Where some
looking
great
at it,
rookies would have played.
2015 from the hitter's perspective is probably like the biggest one, like quite a while. But a lot of that was like coming through, looking at it, it's like it's defensive WAR, and you have so much of a. When you total the WAR, you end up being like, oh, like, well, how much of the bottom like skews it back the other way. I think when you were talking about like 2024, the thing was like, I'm just looking at like the hitter side here. Like there were 14 guys who got 2 WAR as a rookie, which is basically saying that like you are a starter, and there were like
above average regular,
5 of them that were like above 3 from a hitting perspective, with Merrill, Cowser, Churio, Mason Willen, and Austin Wells, or Joey Ortiz as well. So you're like, these are all guys that are still around today. If you jump back to 2015, it was Chris Bryant, Matt Duffy, Francisco Lindor, Adubel Herrera, Carlos Correa, Jock Pederson, Randall Grichuk. So that's 8 guys who got 3 or more WAR from a hitting perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's an unbelievable rookie class. I guess an interesting part of this too is that 4 of the top 10 seasons ever have all been since 2020, which I think goes to show that teams are playing rookies a lot more now than they ever have. Partly, and credit to MLB on this, incentivized by the fact that you no longer have the reason to keep rookies down for quite as long in the minors for service time manipulation purposes, or at least you're incentivized to bring them up at some point if you think they're good enough earlier. But I also think teams are just more likely to trust in rookies to be their starters now than they were maybe even 10 years ago, where you kind of came up and you'd platoon for a bit or you'd come off the bench for a bit, and guys would, their rookie eligibility would really stretch out. Whereas now I think when you're ready, teams think you're ready and they're going to give you a good run in a team. So that's probably a part of it as well. And there are other guys I didn't mention who either have found their way into starting roles already this year for teams or are likely to come up and have an impact. I think especially on the pitching side, you'll probably see more guys get called up as teams get pitcher injuries and contribute to that. But I think certainly at the top end, it feels like this, compared to last year, is a really great rookie class. And I'm high on a few of those guys we mentioned to be, immediate all-star level players, and some of them, for fan bases that could really use a new name to cheer for, which is always exciting.
Yeah. Where do I put this? I think, like, if we're saying it's going to be like the best ever, like, it's definitely like, it's a bold statement. I think kind of like, once again, like, we've got 25 years of baseball or whatever. So basically saying something is the best in that time period is like, that's immediately going to give you more than 5 out of 10, in my opinion, because it's just like there's a lot of like history to go against, a lot of modern history to go against where those kind of people are being used. But you are right that like you've got that, and you are also slightly skewed by a few of the Japanese players coming across that are like technically rookies, but aren't really. So you can put it out there. So I'll give this 6 out of 10. I think it's fairly
Okay.
spicy. I think that like because you're hoping on some of the guys who haven't even like come up yet, like having good seasons. Like
Yeah.
obviously, like as a Cleveland fan, I'm hoping that Travis Bazzana comes up fairly shortly and plays a massive impact into that as well. But like a lot of these guys could equally absolutely suck. Like we've seen a few of the other like top prospects do, or we know with some of these guys that they can be found out fairly quickly. Although I find that there's enough data on players nowadays that I feel we don't have as much of a sophomore slump from a hitting perspective as we used to. I might have to look into that to see if that's the case or not, because it's just like, you know what, everybody has all your AAA data, so all your AA data, so they can pretty much know what to do to you anyway. So we'll see how that kind of comes through. But no, I think I like the spiciness of that, Ben.
Yeah. Long live the rookies. Back to you.
Long live the rookies. So to take the my segue from rookies to Rockies,
Oh,
um,
I love that.
is is the cause effect finally going to work in the Rockies' favor?
Okay.
That is my thing that I'm going to say. And again, not quite certain how we're going to like measure this, but my hot take basically is that like Zach Veen and Cam Smith, one of those two players will get close to basically like the Coors Field like home run record, basically like for the single season. I think that like Colorado finally potentially might have a couple of sluggers who could do something in that canvas park and actually kind of like do the damage themselves instead of having the damage inflicted on them.
Okay, I like this. Well, I can't believe you're the one who came up with a Rockies prediction and not me. Um, so hang on, who do you think? Do you think someone's going to set the single season Coors Field home run record? Is kind of
Yes.
your prediction? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So yeah, with me saying probably Zach Veen or Cam Smith. Um,
Cam Smith of
well, yeah, but I was saying with Cam Smith is like obviously that was a bit of a joke more that like obviously
got
like he
you
was having the he's
because he
in
was
his
doing well at
small number
Coors.
of games that he's played there that like he
I
hit that
mean,
freaking absolute moonshot that like he's gonna play like 8 games this season and will score 20
yeah,
home runs.
I think it's. I think I would like this prediction if you predicted that a non-Rocky full stop was going to hold the record for most home runs at Coors Field this year. I might like that. Certainly, Cam Smith looked the better hitter than anyone that the Rockies have. Okay, well, this is a fun one. I wish I shared your optimism. Yeah, it's definitely hot. Moniak's look good. He's hit a few home runs already, and someone called TJ Brumfield's look good, and Hunter Gibson will hit some home runs. I just don't believe in the Rockies at all. But so it's spicy, I guess, is the conclusion I'm coming to here. Do you know what the record is?
No, this is just one I made up just
This is
for
totally made
for
up.
you, Ben, to just to be
It's got to be one of the
like
guys in the early 2000s, hasn't it? At Coors Field, like Vinny Castilla or someone like that.
yeah, I'm imagining it's probably somewhere in the 30s, which is probably actually fairly difficult to get at, but
The Rockies and their opponents combined for 303 home runs in 1999. That's awesome. The average score at Coors was 8-7. That friggin' rules. Anyway, I can't really find a number, but I like this. It's hot. I will give it an 8 out of 10. I cannot see a world in which this is true. Because I do think, despite the fact they've actually brought themselves back to 500, that the Rockies are terrible still. But I will give it a 7 out of 10 for Spice.
MLB is seemingly suggesting that Larry Walker and Todd Helton have hit 49 home runs. No, that's the whole season record, not by what they actually did at. I hate that you can't find these things easily. All right, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm terrible at looking up these kind of stats.
So I'll get it on. I'll look in StatHad and see if I can find it while we're chatting away.
While we chat, well, I'll pivot. I have a somewhat Rockies tangential hot take, which I don't know. It's another one that I'm not sure I believe in myself, but I think it's worth bringing up. is it possible that no one stinks this year, and that however much we thought there were still a lot of really bad teams in baseball, maybe even the bad ones aren't that bad now? Because the Rockies, as I said, got back to 500. I think they lost yesterday, so they're back below 500. But they've looked competitive so far this year. I think they possibly even still have a positive run differential, which is not something that you can usually say about the Colorado Rockies. The White Sox have got Murakami and have won a few games of baseball and don't look horrendous. The Nationals have had some fun games, and CJ Abrams looks great, and so does Wood, and maybe some of the younger guys will keep improving. And who else do we think we're going to be terrible? Like the Guardians have been great, the Twins have been fine, the Marlins are top of the NL East. Is it possible?
The Nationals are your black sheep so far.
They're going to let me down.
Team. But this is actually something that I think lines up with my little snippet one that I said when you were talking about the Blue Jays, is that I genuinely think that like the Dodgers will get to 100, and I probably think the Yankees will get into the mid 90s or high 90s. I'm not certain basically on anybody else actually getting there being some top teams, which means that means that generally you don't have bad teams to go with it. So yeah, like nobody give. I think the line to maybe take is how many teams get 60 something or like does everybody?
Yeah, I guess.
Does everybody get to 70 wins? Is your?
Yeah, I'm not going to make my hot take that hot, but I'm going to say no team loses 100 games.
Okay. Well, given that we've had a couple for the last like 2 or 3 seasons, that
the
genuinely somebody has
been
somebody has been actively like properly ass tanking.
They only had 2 100-game losers last year, but one of them did lose 119. No prizes for guessing which team that was. And obviously, the year before that, the White Sox literally set the single-season loss record. So maybe at the very least, we're not going to have a 120 loss team this year, which would be a step forward. But I think maybe this is the year that the very bottom rises ever so slightly off the ocean floor.
Yeah, no, that would be amazing if we could actually get to that. I think it would be. I think it would be an interesting position to then from MLB to go like competitive balance is an issue.
It's a good point. Could make things interesting in that conversation.
It's like, oh yeah, it's really a big issue when actually like no one is stanking, or maybe they can be like, look, we're all the same, and the Dodgers they're just so good we can't catch to them.
I mean, the Dodgers do still look like a level above, don't they? Which is just boring at this point. Get over yourselves. But everyone else, yeah, it's all pretty close. I mean, the worst run differential in baseball belongs to the White Sox. No surprises there. The second worst, the Blue Jays, which backs up your argument. But for the most part, there's been a lot of competitive baseball so far, which we love to see.
Yes. Well, I like it, Ben. I do like it. I think it's solidly in there again as something that's like not having a 100-loss team is, I think, just someone will do that, which means that once again, it's like it does go above that like that 5 mark for me, where I'm kind of like saying that like I think that it is slightly more unlikely than likely. So I'm going to give you another 6 out of 10. I think it is solidly like it's a good take. It's a good hot take.
I'm fine with that.
Like,
I'm just hitting singles out here, Yeah. Please try and swing for the fences every time.
Right over there. So I'll jump off the back a little bit of what you said.
I like it.
I'm going to go tell you one. So I'm going to have Andy Páez as the highest WAR for a LA Dodgers outfielder come the end of the season.
For an LA Dodgers outfield, okay. I thought you were going to go super spicy and just position player, but outfielders tempering it a little. He's been off to a great start, so got himself a lead already.
So effectively, is he going to outdo
Kyle Tucker?
is the real bet to it, and basically as he's given himself almost a 1 WAR head start, is like how long
he plays left. Teoscar is
it
the other one, is it? I guess.
It would be basically it's effectively out of those 3. I thought about going like for whole like positional player, and I was like, I think that's probably too. I don't think that's actually going to happen. So this one might come down on the hot take regard, but it's because it's a little bit too likely to happen.
I like it, spicy. Don't call me a stats nerd, but a 5.33 BABIP feels tough to sustain for a full season.
What?
But I mean, he's one of those guys, isn't he? That like is so annoying with the Dodgers. They just find these dudes that are like, for any other team would be a bench bat and wouldn't go anywhere and would end up kind of in that quad A bouncing around position, and the Dodgers turn them from those players into like genuine, legitimate, everyday players who contribute with the glove and the bat, and he's just the next one in that line, isn't he?
Yeah.
Do I think he's going to keep this up all year? No.
For me, he's a hilarious one because last year when I went to LA with my partner and we saw a couple of Angels games against the Pirates and Dodgers game against the Pirates, and we watched
Okay.
Skeens versus Yamamoto at which the Pirates actually won 3-0 in Dodger Stadium, and Páez got 3 hits off Skeens and like no one else got like more than one. So it got me thinking. We had the chat on the podcast where I'm just like, if you were to just go to baseball games and we didn't have the internet, you'd come back being like, this guy's great. Like he got like 3 hits against like the best pitcher in baseball. But you kind of just have those singular moments. And I'm just like, again, it's almost like, does he like April? Like, is this just his time of the year where he's like, this is when he actually gets on form before everybody else kind of warms back up and the season slowly kind of slides off him.
So you've had this take marinating for about a year then. You were convinced at that point Páez is, he's the best player on the Dodgers. I just need time to work out how it happens. And here it is. This is hot. I mean, really, it's just, is Páez a better baseball player than Kyle Tucker this year? Which is probably a no, but I think it's possible. So I'm going to bring it down to a 5 out of 10. All he needs is a couple of hot months and for Tucker to, get injured or be rubbish, which hopefully isn't the case, but it could happen. It could happen.
I'll take that.
Fine. My next take, where am I going to go with this? Let's keep it in the outfield. I think we have to discuss this game on the podcast at some point. So my take is pretty simple. And I don't think this is hot, honestly. Joe Adele had the best single-game defensive performance in Major League Baseball history when he robbed 3 home runs for the Angels last week in a 1-0 game against the Mariners. There's literally no way to quantify this because the defensive metrics we have just aren't built to measure single-game value when it comes to robbing home runs, so I don't really know how you approve this, but I just think based on what we know about previous games and amazing defensive performances, I can't see how anyone can compete with what he did. So probably not a hot take, but I think we just have to mention the fact that was the most insane thing I've ever seen an outfielder do.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way of getting like DRS or offense or like or any of like the outfield above average or like a fielding above average metrics for a singular game, but like I haven't looked to see like what the catch probability of those things were, but they're anytime you rob something like that, it's pretty ridiculous, and to do it like 3 times in very similar ways, like every single one of them is him running to his left, like taking it basically like at the fence. I think they're within like, I want to say like 20 feet of each other, like on the fence as well. So he's done
First 2 were identical, weren't they? Then obviously the third one he ends up in the crowd, which if anything added to the drama of it.
Also, tangential hot take, that should be a home run.
I knew you were going to bring this up. Disagree.
That is an opinion that I've had, and I wrote an article about probably like 5 years ago now. But when JBJ did it once at Fenway. But I'm like, if you don't maintain the ball in the field, it's left the field. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if you leave the field with the ball, like, that's it.
Everything you're saying makes total sense. I don't disagree. But how cool is it when a guy dives into the stands and then just stands up like Adele did, glove in the air, ball in it?
It's made by the girl who took the photo like behind it. But you have that, like, you have the shot of him just like glove in hand, like almost like Rocky power pose. I'm like, there should be a Joe Adele statue of that by the end of the season, as far as I'm concerned. Like they've got a deal, or there should be a Joe Adele bobblehead of that pose.
Yeah,
like before the end of the season. Like, because you got to live on it like it is right now. Like, yeah, it's undeniable. Like, it's not a particularly hot take to suggest that there would be a better defensive performance than that in the season. Best defensive performance ever. Honestly, we don't see enough defensive highlights to basically be like to see what's happened in the past. There's probably be some old timers who will be telling us about like Well, there's obviously
Robinson
like
or
the catch
whoever.
and other things like that, where you plays that saved a perfect game or whatever to do those sorts of things, or but unassisted triple plays and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's phenomenal, and in our day and age where like it's like I think we probably all woke up and saw all three. And saw basically, I saw the highlight of basically like Adele Rob's 3 home runs and basically
Yeah.
watched it kind of like happen. So kind of it was lost a little bit on us, but like it's just how it happened to the people who were there or the people
To
who were
watch it live,
watch it live. I just
insane.
can't think of anything that would be like it'd be more ridiculous. So you have watched something that probably hasn't happened in the 100,000 baseball games that have happened in Major League history. So it's just like. Yeah.
And a lot of it is like luck, not luck, because they're 3 amazing catches, but like to have 3 balls that were all basically a foot above the fence hit to the exact same part of the park is super. Like the reason you don't see many home run robberies is that there aren't very many opportunities generally for home run robberies. So to have 3 balls all hit to his side of the field, a foot above the fence that he could rob, obviously just takes just an insane stroke of luck or variance to make that happen. But the fact that he caught all 3, the fact it was a 1-0 game. It's just nuts, isn't it? And what could be more high leverage than the Angels winning one of their 66 wins this year in April against the Mariners? That's the stuff of dreams.
The true Angels aspect of it, it should have been a 1-0 loss. It should have been the freaking tungsten armored oil, like.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Adele robbed
So
3 home runs.
The hot take of saying that this is the defensive performance of the season 1 at 0, maybe defensive
No, I
performance
said
of all time.
Yeah,
Of all time,
2.
I've got to give it a 3 or a 4 because it's just like,
okay.
honestly, like I haven't watched. There are so many baseball games out there that like we could put this out on the internet and somebody or go ask like some of the baseball historians and they'll like give us snippets of some games where somebody did X, Y, Z and kind of happened. But yeah, I think
it's funny you mentioned it. Jason Stark did an article where he tried to prove whether it was the best defense performance of all time, and he basically the conclusion he came to was impossible to know, but probably yes, because he did talk to historians, and he talked to broadcasters, and he even asked ChatGPT, who were useless. And basically, it's like, look, there were other games where players made really great plays, but nothing that was like quite as obvious run value worthy as robbing 3 home runs is. So he decided it was. But like you say, if you talk to someone who vaguely remembers the 1928 whatever game, then they might disagree.
So the thing is, Ben, you've just talked to me like back down basically into saying that
Back
like
down to a 1. Yeah,
this isn't a hot take basically because it's just the freaking truth. I'll give you a 2 because there's a potential like something else out there that like could have happened that we just don't know about.
I'll take it. The better hot take, I guess, would be that he should get exactly 1 win above replacement given to his stats for winning the game for them. But we'll save that conversation for another time. Over to you.
Okay. I think this is my fun and spiciest one. I think that fans love the ABS system right now. But I think in 2 months' time, they're going to realize that all this is actively doing is basically giving more strikes than it is balls, and it's actually suppressing run values. So it's basically making the game lower scoring game. And we might get to this point because it's been a lower scoring to the season. Maybe not enough to actually kind of say anything definitive because it's April and it's always low temperatures. But I'm going to say, like, by June or July, you're going to start to hear rumblings of some anti-ABS sentiment, more on the basis of the fact that it's like it's actually a run suppressing change.
This is a great take. I like it. Because everyone is so pro ABS right now, and obviously the fans seem to be enjoying it. That credit to MLB, they've got the process down to a T, haven't they? Where it's so quick to come up with a decision. There's a sort of drama and theatre of watching it on the big screen, and the ball comes in and zoom, and then it's 2 inches outside.
They've taken the best elements of like Hawkeye in tennis, which as far as I'm concerned is the gold standard for you're using basically something to measure something which you basically should empirically be able to, and basically give a result quickly. Like it's there. The fact that it's within generally like 5-10 seconds, the crowd gets to have it. Ooh, we've already basically had phenomenal moments of like Kyle Schwarber basically walking to first base, even though like the strike was called, because he's just like, nah, mate,
He just
like
knows.
nowhere near. Like, and we are seeing some amazing things about it. Seeing was it Eugenio Suarez called to be struck
CB
out
Buckner.
twice? Yeah,
Yeah.
being struck out twice and having them like both overturned, and so you're just like,
Consecutive pitches. Yeah, that's brilliant.
yeah, it's pure entertainment, and I absolutely love it from that perspective. Like, I think that I was somebody who was 100% on like, if you're going to do this, make it like purely robo-umps and just move it aside and move on. But I do think that if you think about this, I think now that if you think about baseball more of as an entertainment product than just the other parts of just getting everything right, this does actually do that. And I think that it's been introduced like brilliantly. I'll also be on the
Yeah.
fact that we're now seeing that like some players are like 3 inches shorter than they said they were, which is absolutely hilarious. I think like, is it Bregman who's gone from being above 6 foot to below 6 foot? There's quite a few players that have dropped below 6 foot now that they've been measured and told basically that their height being too tall is actually will give them a higher strike zone.
Gonna say
So,
suddenly it's beneficial to be 5'9", so they're all quite happy
yeah.
to be.
There'll be some scandals that people are now too short probably at some point, but yeah.
No, I
This
think
is what happened. This is what happened in AAA last year. There were more balls were overturned to strikes than strikes were overturned to balls. So
that's interesting.
it was like
I
a
think
55-45 ratio, and it's sat a little bit higher than that right now in MLB. But I think I don't know whether people will pick this up, if any broadcaster will ever talk about it, but I think some people might start to not like it because of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously it's a bit too soon to start drawing conclusions from the results, but I know even after the first weekend, it was instantly clear that the best people at getting successful challenges were catchers who have a much better understanding and obviously sight of the strike zone, crouch back there than hitters do, and pitchers, which intuitively makes sense, and then intuitively would mean that more balls become strikes because those are the ones that they're challenging. So that is interesting. I hadn't considered that it might be run suppressing in the long run. Obviously, I love the fact that it's so universally liked right now that you are one step ahead saying, let's be the first to hate it. That's great. I enjoy that. A little bit like when Tony Romo first did play-by-play or color commentary, sorry. And, now everyone hates him. If you were the first to say, actually, Romo's rubbish, that was, something you could look back on proudly. So maybe we can be the first to say, actually, AVS is crap. But yeah, this is spicy. I don't see it happening. I think because it's been instituted so well, it adds a layer to the game. And even though as a whole, it may end up being run to pressing, I think the calls that we want overturned are those ones where batters get rung up on pitches outside in a big spot and they have no way of turning it
WBC
over.
semi-final.
Exactly. So I think the public perception will still be, we overturn that massive strikeout, which is good for my team, and then we got a hit or whatever. So even if the data bears out that it's bad for runs, it might be that public perception is different. But I like the take a lot. Maybe it'll take a couple of years, but I could see you being right. The other thing I think is a shame about ABS, we're going to get fewer ejections now, right? Because managers can't argue with science. They used to be able to run out of the dugout and scream at an umpire for getting a call wrong. Well, now the umpire can be like, should have challenged it, mate. There's no drama in the ball strike calls anymore.
I think you are right, but I think we're going to see the glorious ones where like you're either going to get somebody ejected for still disagreeing with what the
ABS is
replay
wrong.
shown, or you're going to get people objecting that either someone took too long to challenge and it was accepted,
I think that's happened
or
already.
someone
Yeah.
didn't challenge fast enough and didn't get it accepted. Because I think there was one in like spring training where like, I can't remember who it was, but basically they took the pitch and they're basically taking their stuff off to go to first, and the ump called it a strike, and they were just like, what? Oh wait, do this. And then it's like, no, you waited too long. And I was just like, well, I didn't think you were going to call it like a strike, so I wasn't even thinking about asking for it. So
well, there was a great one only a couple of days ago now. Ohtani was pitching, Will Smith catching. I don't know if you saw this, but Ohtani threw a pitch that was called a ball. It was relatively close, but not super close. And he went to adjust his hat on his head after the pitch. And Will Smith thought he was tapping his head to say challenge it. So then Will Smith challenged it because he saw the sign from Ohtani as being challenge that pitch for me. And it was a ball. So the challenge failed. But because Ohtani had gone to just adjust his hat, it got misconstrued as a challenge signal. So I could definitely see ejections because a player says, oh, no, I was just adjusting my helmet, or I was just doing this. And that could quite easily get complicated. But that probably is more a growing pain as people get used to the new system.
Well, something that's probably only might impact us and a few of our listeners. In British baseball, we've been informed that touching your cap will be treated the same as drawing a line in the dirt. So
you'll get an ejection.
I'm waiting for people in British baseball to get ejected by tapping their helmet. Or in your case, you're saying someone might just be genuinely like adjusting their helmet, and then it's just like yoga.
If you can't see that as just being funny, then I think you need a sense of humour check. But God, the less said about that, the better. Right. Did I give you a number? I'm going to give you a 7. I think that's spicy. I can't see it coming true, but I like that you're getting ahead of the ABS is bad actually take. So 7 out of 10. So for my next one, I'm going to go with another moment that I feel like we have to discuss at some point that's happened in the first couple of weeks. So my hot take is this. Walt Weiss might be the most likely 62-year-old in the world to kick your ass. Because for those who missed it, he managed to get quite quickly into the middle of the brouhaha, the fracas that took place in the Angels-Braves game a few days ago when Jorge Soler charged the mound because he felt Ronaldo Lopez was throwing at his head. And it was a weird charge of the mound, wasn't it? Because the ball got away, the player stole second or went second on the pass ball, and then they sort of stared at each other for a few seconds, and then Soler charged the mound. But it took a weirdly long time for it to get broken up, and obviously on the replay it turns out it was Walt Weiss in the middle of it who went low in the tackle and managed to bring Soler down, which a bit embarrassing for the Braves players that you had to have your manager step in there to end things. But also credit to Walt Weiss, who is, as I said, 62 years old, but is a black belt in Taekwondo, practices mixed martial arts, and I think even has other interest in karate or some other martial art areas, which I had no idea about, but maybe explains why he was so keen to get involved. The jury is obviously still out on how successful he will be as a manager. I didn't have a great stint with the Rockies, and he's only 10 games in with the Braves, so I won't judge you much on that. But the jury is not out on whether he can stand up for himself. He will kick your ass if you give him a chance to. And I think, that's my hot take. Do not mess with Walt Weiss. He'll beat you up, put you in a pretzel.
Okay, Walt, gonna give it to you, yeah?
Walt, gonna give it to you.
No, like, that whole thing, like, as you described it, it's just beautifully hilarious, because it's like, Soler has Lopez's number. Like, you can't, like, the small amount of stats you have in baseball actually from an individual versus like a pitcher is generally not enough until they've probably faced each other like 60 times before you can actually say someone is just better or worse, or where it's still random variance. But Soler is strongly on the way to basically being just knowing exactly what Lopez does. He'd already hit a home run against him in the game. He'd already been hit by pitched. I'm just amazed that I guess that ball just had to be so wild that a play happened that Soler didn't go immediately. Like, I don't know how like a ball going behind your head after you've already been hit once didn't set him off already. And then he's like, it's a beautiful moment in baseball where you're just like, it looks like everything is like gonna calm, nothing's gonna happen you thought could happen, and they're just jarring at each other, saying stuff, and then they come out, he gets some swings, freaking Lopez punches him with takes a swing with the ball still in his hand.
Love that.
And I think makes reasonable contact. And you're just like, oh, so 7 games each? And I was just like, okay.
Sure.
Sure. I feel like they're definitely trying to stamp this out a little bit more than they used to. I swear, when Amir Garrett went basically just by himself against the Pirates, he only got 4 games for that or something like that. I might be completely wrong, but it definitely feels like they're trying to stamp this thing out of baseball. But yeah, Waller, man, that is just I didn't see that like when I saw it the first time around, but I saw a comment that somebody had put on on a post, a picture about it, and it just been like, dude, I ain't fighting with the Braves this season. The unwritten rules are not going to be enforced against the Braves now.
He got out there fast. Yeah, don't mess with him.
Yeah. So, I think obviously as a 62-year-old in baseball, I think that's probably like a not particularly hot take. I think there probably are some other jacked and ripped 62-year-olds that can easily put us both to shame
That's not saying
within
much.
seconds. No, it's not saying much, but I'm saying within seconds, it'd be like,
Yeah, you're right.
we'll be crying on the floor in an armbar in like 2 seconds flat. So, yeah, I think if we're saying like the 62-year-old in baseball, it's a 1 out of 10, but it's as a 62-year-old you probably don't want to meet in a bar fight. It's it's still probably up there as a 2 or a 3 out of 10.
I'll take it. Put some respect on my man Walt's name.
Cool. I've got one more that I think is spicy enough to discuss. I think Jose Soriano will finish top 3 in the Cy Young. Like, which
Wow.
is this comes I had written this one down before we'll get to a second. We did ask some of our listeners in one of the chats to come up with some of their own, and Nick Wright, our resident Angels fan, was up there saying that, I think, did he say he was actually going to win it, or he said I think he'd actually win the Cy Young, so he's gone a little bit further than I will, but like,
Okay.
he's 3 games in, like 20 innings pitched, 1 run, like conceded. You know what?
That's good.
Like, it's not bad. Like, you're getting to the point where you're just kind of like, okay, 66% ground ball rate is not like particularly sustainable, but like, okay, like we have now tilted our heads to you and been like, you've done 10% of the season, and you're in a pretty stellar position after 10% of the season. So yeah, I think he's putting his name in the hat pretty strongly.
I like it. He definitely deserves recognition, doesn't he? I think so. He was good last year, but people, your average fan, myself included, probably didn't really care because he played for the Angels, and the I guess numbers that your eyes immediately gravitate to, like ERA, weren't amazing, so you kind of were like, well, who cares? But this year he's taken it to another level. Obviously, strikeouts up, walks down, which again, 2 of the pretty quick metrics to stabilize. And is he going to have an ERA below 1 all year? Probably not. But is he going to be legitimately an ace? I think signs point to probably yes, and not just an ace in the Angel sense, which would just be someone with a working right arm. So do I think he's going to win Cy Young? No. Or compete for it? Still probably no. But do I think that this is a legitimate, like, maybe number 1 starting pitcher? Kind of hard to argue based on the results so far this year. And again, it's another fun reason to tune into Angels baseball, because he throws hard, strikes guys out, and is really good. So this is spicy. I give it like a 7. I mean, we see guys have good starts every year, and it just happens to be Jose this year, and good for him. But it's always going to take is one blow up start, and those numbers start to look a bit more down to earth, don't they?
Yeah, well, he's 3-0 through 3 games. I think he's the only player. So
Oh, we're doing it about wins now, are we, Russell? How your tune has changed.
Yeah,
it's
no, I
convenient for
think
you.
the difficulty more is Cam Schittler, Kevin Gausman, Taj Bradley, even obviously like Max Fried and Tarek Skubal have all looked particularly good. Not even to say like Joe Ryan and Dylan Cease have all looked pretty good as well.
Yeah, there are
Like
some good pitches in the AL.
on the AL side, I think you've had a lot of top pitchers.
But no, I mean, look, I hope I'm proven wrong. He's been awesome, and he's definitely put his hat into contention early doors. We'll see if it continues. So yeah, I'll give that a 7. I've got 2 left. One of mine is related to one that we got in the WhatsApp, so I'll save that and we can talk about it then when we go through those quickly. So my last one is related to the news that came out, I want to say yesterday, which is that 8 teams are going to have new City Connect uniforms coming this year. My hot take, that I guess is kind of lukewarm, if that, when you think about it, is that all 8 are just good. They're good uniforms. Like, City Connect's obviously been around for a little while now. This is the 4th year, I think, of teams getting the uniforms, and they've obviously had one version now. We're kind of onto like the second round of teams getting follow-up uniforms, and arguably it could start to get a little bit stale, because the whole point of the City Connect was like a really cool, unique uniform that connects a team with a city, and it's kind of like, well, once you've done it once and then you try and do it again, does it not make it not unique anymore? But I think they've nailed it on this occasion. You know, the Rangers and Pirates ones I think are a bit boring, but generally speaking, would wear, and that's just all you need from a new spin-off uniform. They're all, you know, somewhat unique, look cool. They're the kind of thing that you can wear to a ball game, but also just wear for fun, which I think is always a good box that the City Connect uniform should tick. A lot of the hats as well are really fun. So, you know, I'm sure, and then look, fashion is subjective. People are going to call me an idiot for liking some of them, but that's my view, that they're all like really nice uniforms that build off the original versions that each team had. And so it's a tick from me.
So I think I mostly agree with you. I fall on the Cincinnati one as probably the one that like just makes it not a complete
It's a bit
clean
boring.
sweep of okay ones. Like, to me, like, there's 2 things that I would like them really to do. One basically is either you got to go completely different colors to like your normal things to basically like bring a
Okay.
different vibe, bring something in, kind of throw it out there, or it's got to like really show off something kind of either specific or unique about the city that for some of it all the place. For some of us, we don't really know this. Like, I know some people haven't particularly liked the Boston ones, but I actually think the Boston ones have been really good. Obviously the marathon colors, which they use with that yellow and blue one to start off with, and then the green one, which is all around kind of like Fenway Park and the Monster. I think they all really work. They're different to kind of like what they normally are, but they also kind of tick that one off. You're wearing the Rockies one like right now, which like if it was just that top jersey, I would have loved. The same reason why I'm going to have a go at like the Cincinnati one is that basically like colored pants looks like college or like company softball level sort of like look, like just the
Trouser police here.
yeah, the city they've gone basically just like full red, and I'm just like, it's the one thing that I'm just like, it just doesn't work for me personally.
Yeah,
And
no,
you
I
can
feel.
say that I think even a little bit about like the Pirates one as well, going like full black. It does give like the college feel, and I'm not saying whether that's a good or a bad thing, but like I think that kind of it doesn't quite work the same way for the Cincinnati one. But like the rest, like I actually quite like the Texas one. Like it feels like it's a nod in a good direction when it's coming to things like Texas and everything else. Yeah, like the San Diego one is like, okay, cool, fine, it is what it is. Pirates one, maybe I like the cap. Okay, the font looks kind of cool, but there isn't really anything that
It's a
new
bit
on it.
dull.
It's a bit like
Yeah.
they already have black jerseys that they only seem to wear when Paul's games are playing and all of that stuff. We saw in discussions in our little chat group about whether what is Wisco and if it's actually anything to do with like
Yeah.
Wisco, and it seems like it's a phrase for the youngins, not for us older millennials or above. I actually really like the Royals one. I saw
Same.
like a discussion about like where like the specific colors come from and like the stylization, do all like the Fountain City and stuff like that. Like I wasn't too sold on it when it was just like originally white, but kind of like actually kind of seeing it and seeing like where it comes from. Like it does actually look quite nice, and I think the cap is actually like is pretty nice. So as someone who was prepared to hate all of these, because I'd thought that like most of the teams had basically there was a few hot ones to come out at the start out of the blocks, but it got pretty kind of like tepid since of like a lot of ones that were just like the team colors just with a slightly different variation and a slightly different font and all that sort of stuff. No, I think they're all, yeah, they're all pretty good this year. So I think I think it is a hot take, Ben, because I know that a lot of people don't like them. I agree with
Yeah.
your take, which
People
then
just
makes
hate
it,
on everything.
it's got to come down, and like it's probably only like a 4 out of 10, I think, because like some people do like them.
Okay,
But yeah,
I'll take
no,
it.
cool. So as we both kind of briefly mentioned, we did have some takes from our listeners, so we're just gonna quickly jump through those to basically go through
Give them
them.
some ratings too.
Yeah. So we'll start off with Jason, who's a much maligned Pirates fan. He said that a traffic cone is the Pirates' single biggest acquisition since last year's trade deadline. I don't know if you've seen their kind of like celebration of scoring home runs. They basically just kind of like have taken a traffic cone from somewhere, and that's now what they use for their home run celebration.
Love it.
Which is just like, it has very student vibes. I don't know
First
how
year of
much.
university. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much it is a vibe in the US compared to what it is a vibe in the UK, but putting traffic cones on statues is part and parcel of being a student, as far as I'm concerned.
I like this take. The only thing I'll say, didn't he, as part of it, in some way belittle Ryan O'Hearn, who, by the way, is raking as a Pirate
Yeah.
so far. I don't know if his point was just that this traffic cone is so valuable that not even the great Ryan O'Hearn can compete with him. But yeah, we'll have no Ryan O'Hearn slander on this podcast. He's been unbelievable so far.
Yeah. We've got from Tommy the Marlins fans out in Finland. The Denver Broncos owner now is bought 40% of the Rockies, so the Rockies now have money to spend. So time to trade Ohtani to cause.
I like it. This one's a good take. Yeah, I see it happening.
I think this has to go on the hottest of hot takes, because I don't think that's ever going to happen. So
It might be good for your prediction about the most home runs at Coors Field. Ohtani's the kind of guy that would do that pretty comfortably.
Jed, with his trademark elocution, has told us that the Tigers are shit.
Okay. Season over.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit early to jump on that on that point, but I think anybody who supports a team in the AL Central, optimism is not is part of the course. So
Those bloody
we'll see how that
Guardians.
one goes. But they've pretty much kind of, I think, thrown away any major expectation that they're gonna run away with this division against the rest. And I think when I looked at Fangraphs yesterday, it was predicting like 81 or 82 wins for the 4 teams that aren't the White Sox. So still got a chance to get out of the division, but I don't think anything's looking good. But
Could be a fun race.
Tony gave us another one. Marlins will win the NL East. Spicy.
That's spicy. I mean, they've looked good so far this year. Top of the NL East right now.
Mason Miller to win the Cy Young.
So this one is related to one that I had, yeah, which this is spicier than what I had. I think he's going to have the best relief pitcher season ever. Well, I don't know, maybe that is just as spicy, but he has been unbelievable this year. 27 2/3 scoreless innings streak so far, which obviously stretches back to last year. And so far this year, he's faced 21 hitters and he's struck out 16 of them. That is obscene. Obviously, he won't keep that up all year, but I do like this take. I think Cy Young might be out of reach just because you have to be so good in 60 innings to be able to beat out starters. But he's on pace to be like peak Rivera meets peak Chapman meets peak, name another legendary relief pitcher. He's looked unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he's one of those ones where you're just like, what he's gonna have to do is like 50 save season to touch.
50 saves, less than 1 ERA, and like 110 strikeouts, and maybe he's got a chance.
Yeah, and especially when it's probably even seeing it right now that like Edwin Diaz already has 4 saves. I'm like, you're gonna have like the best, but might not even be the best closer in that division.
In the division, yeah, yeah, you're right.
I saved this one because we could have discussed it beforehand. Fraser is a Cardinals fan, came through with Sandy Alcantara is all the way back. There's a few saying that the Sandy will basically is going to win the Cy Young, but the hot take part of it is going to propel the Marlins to the playoffs.
Another Marlins playoff prediction. Okay, gaining some steam. I mean, Sandy's been great. I kind of assumed they were going to trade him at some point, but he's looked awesome. Jamie didn't get the chance to complete that game the other night, but you never know.
Yeah, Jordan Walker finally has his breakout and is Cardinals' best hitter of the year.
I made a bad joke about Jordan Walker on the predictions pod too, saying it was year 12 of people predicting he was going to break out, and he's breaking out. And he,
We're
as we
finally hitting
mentioned then,
Walt up.
he's still only like 23. He's still so young. I hold my hands up, Jordan Walker. I might have written you off too soon.
Let's just again. Is it the small sample size that we've just finally seen the few balls that he's hit in the air and not on the ground? Because he always
True.
smashed the absolute shit out of it. Like,
True.
One of those ones.
But he's got 5 home runs in 12 games this year. He had 6 in 111 last year.
Yeah. So, yeah, not
Fair play.
Fair play. Pete with his obviously keeping his feet on the ground. Jazz traded back to the Marlins at the deadline.
That's fun. Okay. So
Well,
Pete wasn't the one to predict the Marlins to the playoffs. That might be the most shocking thing we've heard tonight.
Don't really see that really happening with the Yankees doing well unless they're going to get something else out of it, which would probably be Sandy.
Sandy for Jazz. Who says no? That Yankees rotation really needs the help.
Joe with his Joel Bailey with his in one of our fantasy groups has constantly talked about the fact that he's still utterly surprised that Taylor Walls has a job, and his hot take is that he'll still have a job come September, even though he thoroughly believes that he is the worst shortstop in Tampa Bay history.
I was about to say, if this isn't a Taylor Walls based prediction, then I refuse to believe it's come from Joel. So I'm glad that he's come through there.
Yeah, with a few people asking though that you just said he was still in a job, so does counting that if he's driving for Uber count as still being in a job in September?
Poor Taylor Walls.
And Sean was just joking on the actual trade for Jazz will be for a bucket of balls after he's being booed like Joey Gallo come July for Jazz.
Hot take. Is a bucket of balls worse than cash considerations? I think it has to be, doesn't
it? Yeah, I think we'll take cash considerations. So there we have it. There are quick fire hot takes from the group.
Yeah, thanks.
There's a couple of spicy ones out there. I think the Marlins and Mason Miller winning the Cy Young are probably the 2 hardest takes.
Yeah, I like those. I like those a lot. Mason Miller, you never know. Well, there we have it. So our hottest one we got was you had a 9, didn't you? Which one did I give you a 9 for? Was that the
Okamoto?
Yeah, Okamoto, 3rd best Japanese hitter ever. Yeah, I stand by that. That's nuclear.
Yeah, we didn't get down into the other stuff that I'd had potentially like written down, but didn't really look into too much. To be like, is Pete Alonso going to propel Baltimore to the playoffs? Are we finally seeing the real Jack Leiter?
Like it. Well, we've got plenty of time.
You kind of maybe you brushed on the Chicago White Sox aren't actually that bad.
It's looking good at the moment. But look, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we are literally 10, 12 games into the season. And if we don't look stupid by this time next week, we almost certainly will by this time next month. But good news is by then we'll have done, 2 more podcasts contradicting ourselves even further. So therefore making it impossible to, prove that we ever even had that opinion in the first place. But thank you for listening to tonight's podcast. We appreciate you jumping on. And we are going to try and be a little bit more consistent now, getting out some new pods and content each week as the season rolls on. Keep an eye out for that. Make sure you subscribe. Do obviously check us out on YouTube where you can watch us, not just listen to us. But yeah, if you're a podcast listener, then do review and rate. It does help us out a lot. Also worth saying, you should check out the Babblings for Nerds website. I know Gav and the team are doing a lot of hard work as usual, keeping that updated with content with the start of the season underway. If you do want to write for us, then let us know. Now's a great time to join that team and start writing some content. We're always looking for contributors. So get stuck in and yeah, follow us on the socials. So I'll leave it at that. Russell, thank you for joining me.
Oh, pleasure, man, as always.
And we will speak to you all very soon. Bye-bye.